Charles Dunn, scholar here at the Middle East Institute. Just one quick comment on the discussion we've been having. When Mike Mullen was first appointed chairman of the Joint Chiefs, he issued a statement that he wanted his top focus for his first year in office to be the development of a political military strategy for the Middle East. Some of us sat in the basement of the Pentagon and worked on it for about a year, and it involved a heavy component of what you've been talking about, which I think are good ideas.
Someone having,
how you develop this security system in the Middle East. As far as I know, it's never seen the light of day. And just one opinion on this. You have a question about who's in charge of this. It seems to me, to a certain extent, that the proliferation of special envoys, ambassadors, and so on, diffuse responsibility rather than concentrated responsibility, which is one of the reasons why President Obama's pledge to look at this in a holistic fashion when he came into office hasn't really been acted upon in a comprehensive way. So hope that's worked. I do have two specific questions. Number one is you talked a little bit about Iraq, and my question is, you talk about Iraq in terms of being sort of, as I understood it, sort of the focus of other countries coming together and looking at their security issues, which seems to me to put Iraq in a position of being more acted upon than acting. Do you see a situation in the future in which Iraq can be an actor and a positive force in terms of affecting stability and security in the Gulf? Second, there's been a lot of talk in the press lately about the hundreds of billions of dollars that countries in the Gulf, particularly the Saudis, and also the UAE to a great extent, are putting into purchases of new weapon systems designed specifically to avert the Iranian threat, which seems to me to pose some questions about how you can comfortably have a security regime in the Persian Gulf that then involves Iraq. So I wondered if you could give us your views on those questions.
Well, I'm glad you're at the Middle East Institute, but I wish you could go back to the Pentagon basement. First, I'm not a foreign service officer, but I think the use of special envoys is a huge mistake. The one time you want a special envoy is for Arab-Israeli peacemaking, because otherwise everybody expects the Secretary of State to be out there 3 times a week. But for the rest, all you do is you get in the way of what has to be a process in this town of interagency process and integration of capacity where the authority really rests with the people in charge. The Secretary of State, unfortunately, has a lot of areas of the world in which she has to compete with people who supposedly work for her. And that is unfortunate. I didn't mean to give the impression that this all revolves around Iraq. And that's more for the future, where, in fact, the invasion of 2003, what happened afterwards, took Iraq out of the balance. And right now, it is nugatory. There's some people who would like to believe that an attack on Iran would lead Iran to be taken out of the balance. But in both cases, it creates responsibilities for us, which are kind of open-ended. Iraq is a country that is going to have to find its own way over time. And if one can develop the kinds of things I would like to see developed, by the time it gets to the point of being a serious actor again, as I fully expect it to want to be, that it will be in a constructive, fully engaged role rather than something outside. Well, one thing I did not emphasize enough is the importance of the Turkish role in all this. Turkey is going to be a critical player. And the fact that U.S. relations with Turkey are as better than they were in 2003, where they sank to the all-time low since the creation of the Turkish Republic, is something I think we have to work on to a great extent. So, what was the third part of your question?
It was the
the question about
the arms sales.
The arms sales, okay. If indeed the arms sales provide a degree of reassurance for Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others, they can be constructed. If indeed it is done in a way that is not destructive in terms of Israeli attitudes, the need to maintain a positive capacity in regard to that, they can be not destructive. And so far we've heard, I haven't heard anything out of the Israeli office. Let's face it, that's something that's been part of American policy for a long time. But let's also face the following. If Iran had nuclear weapons, it's not clear how conventional weapons are going to have an impact on that. In fact, if I were looking into my heart of hearts, if I were a local country, I might say, does America selling us all these weapons mean that America is less committed itself to our Iraqi security? Question will come up. Also, I suspect the challenge from Iran to the Arab states of the Persian Gulf is going to be less in terms of intimidation through the nuclear weapon, because that brings the United States even more forcefully into the security set of relationships. But rather through non-military instruments, whether it's through Iranians who are living in these countries, whether it's through Shia versus Sunni, whether it's through cultural penetration and the like. That's what I'd be worried about if I were in these countries, in addition to making sure that the United States would be there when they need us. I don't see necessarily arms sales as having an impact very much one way or the other, but, and incidentally, we still haven't gone up to the Congress with the administration. This has taken place over 10 years. Provided you don't get into a circumstance in which you have so many weapons in such a small concentrated area that an accident can be destabilizing.
Got some questions in the back. Here we go.
My name is Faisal. I'm from the Kuwait Embassy. Your Excellency.
I'm in trouble already. Grab your wallets, everybody. Here we go.
Your Excellency, the key to the security in the Gulf, let's say, I want to insult the Persians or the Arabs, we'll call it the Gulf for now.
Fair enough.
The key to security in the Gulf is a pro-Arab, pro-American, non-deviant Iraq. And for the past 7 years, there hasn't been a single American official in Iraq that has contacted any of the tribal leaders or the pure pro-Arab Iraqis in Iraq, which has led to a huge vacuum. Why has this been the case? And why haven't we seen any coordination between Americans and pro-Arab Iraqis? That's my first question. My second question.
Let me just interrupt. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the history of that is. Maybe there's some other folks here who will answer that for you afterwards. I'm just ignorant on that particular issue.
My second point is the key to deterrence, or the key to containment of Iran is a very strong Arab Iraq. You mentioned the dialogue with Iran regarding Afghanistan. I believe Iran will never initialize a dialogue with the United States or any Western country as long as there is not a strong Iraq prepared in the first place. So, do you believe in the next 6 months or the next 5 years, coming 5 years, will we see a pro-Arab Iraq be able to deter Iran?
Well, first, begging the question about deterring Iran out of Iraq by Iraqis. You're not going to see it in 6 months, you're not going to see it in 5 years. This is one reason that the invasion of Iraq required or condemned the United States to play a very deep, very active role in the Persian Gulf for as long as I had.